Hey, welcome back to Smarter with Dr. Carter. I want to talk to you right now about a very, very important issue. Actually, I feel all of our issues that we speak of are very important, but it's for mommies, to-be mommies, ladies who are in their childbearing years, and about the importance of making sure that you get the right folate in your system so you can deliver that to your child so that they do not have what we call neural tube defects. And you know, there's a lot of things. We hear the term neural tube defects with pregnancy, and you have to have folic acid. I want to kind of break that down just a little bit, just kind of give you an idea what neural tube defect is and what folic acid or folate is, and the importance of knowing the difference between the two. Okay, let's talk about this. You know, 50% of the pregnancies are really not planned. Okay, so if you are in childbearing years and you are active, you need to make sure that you're getting the right nutrients in your body so that in case you start developing a little baby, a little fetus, that fetus is getting everything it needs to give it the best chance to survive and thrive at its fullest, just like God intended for all of us to be. Okay? Well, one of the big things we look at is folate. It's a B vitamin. What folate does is it helps the neurological system to develop properly. Now, some of the big things that we always hear about are neural tube defects or spina bifida defects, okay? Basically, that means that as the brain and the spinal cord are developing, there are defects where the spinal cord doesn't develop fully like it should, and or the bones, as they're developing, do not encapsulate the spinal cord all the way, and therefore you have some protrusion or prolapse of the spinal cord, okay? That would be more of a spina bifida. Other neural tube defects, I want you to think about this. Neural tube defects can lead to anything as severe as a cleft palate, spina bifida, major neurological disorders when a child is born, with heart conditions as well, lung conditions, neuroimmune conditions that are severe. But what about other conditions? What about a child that's just a little bit behind mentally? A child that's a little bit immature for their age, or a child that just doesn't really get it. We see those kids all the time, okay? You see kids that they have ADHD, ADD, kids that you're thinking, okay, this child is definitely not the sharpest knife in the drawer. There's things that are not connecting with this child. Those could be a result from these neural tube defects, okay? Because mama has not gotten the proper amount of methylfolate when she conceived and continued to feed this child during this extremely important growth period within her, okay? So I don't want you to just think about doom and gloom neural tube defects, things that are going to be major obstacles for you and your spouse and your child. I want you to think about these little subtleties that come on along the way as too. Just like we have just talked about. Just those kids that you look at and you go, man, that kid's just behind. Okay? Or these kids that are 4 and 5 years old that are still having trouble saying their words, enunciating words correctly, or they're behind in school more than they should be in certain subjects. They just don't get it no matter what happens. Okay? Those are neuroimmune conditions too, okay, from neural tube defects, just not at the heightened awareness that you would have with spinal bifida. Okay. Now, so what do we do about that? What's folate? What's folic acid? Where does it come from? Why do we need it? Well, here's what's going on. Biochemically in our body, we have pathways, and these pathways are dependent upon certain genes, enzymes, and biochemistry of macronutrients. Okay? With biochemistry, there is no biochemistry in our body that requires a pharmaceutical-made medicine to make us function normal, okay? It's all natural stuff, okay? So before pharmaceuticals came big within the last 150 years, for whatever you believe, thousands of years or millions of years, we had to get our health and nutrition from things that were around us. That's where we're designed, and that's the way it still is today. So B vitamins are extremely important for many, many functions. So let's look at folic acid. Well, folic acid has been put in enriched foods since the 70s because of the study of folate and the knowing of the need to prevent neurological disorders at birth. Okay? Well, last year, the American Academy of Gynecologists and Obstetricians decided that it's just not folic acid, not the synthesized form that is enriched into cereals and breads, but proper folate, the natural form of folate. Because what they try to do in biochemistry is they try to take a synthetic medicine of sorts, especially when it's supposed to be a nutritional medicine, and try to make it what we call a stereoisomer of the organic compound itself. Stereoisomer just means they try to make it a mirror image with the carbons, the hydrogens, the oxygens, and the other heterodimers that are attached to this molecule. Okay? Well, they found that folic acid synthetically does okay, and it helps a lot, but it's the actual true organic folate that really takes you to the next level in prevention of neurodegenerative disorders at an early age. Okay? The ones we've talked about. So here's what we do. We look at folate. Where do we get folate? We get folate from green leafy vegetables. Spinach is a huge one. That's something that I try to eat in my diet every single day. And our bodies have to break that down. They do a good job of it too. Also, we have what we call methylated folate. And I want you to think of folate like this. If we were to eat a salad that's full of folate, and we have some eggs with it and some fish with it, that has to go through our body, our digestive system. We're going to pick that apart. We're going to get folate from that. If we have what we call a methylated form of folate that goes into our body, okay, I want you to think of that as a folate that's broken down really quickly and goes to our cells like that versus over a 4 to 6 hour period of digestion. Okay, so methylfolate, you're going to hear me talk about this a lot. It's huge in prevention of neural tube disorders. Okay, now the folate pathway is basically, there's 6 different steps to break folic acid or natural folates down to what we call 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Okay, it's a mouthful, but I'm going to show you some videos soon where I'm going to diagram all that out, and I'll show you all about that. But we start with folate at the top, and we have a folate receptor gene 1, gene 2, then we have the gene SLC19A1. These further break down folate. Then we have dihydrofolate reductase. We have several steps of that. And we have other steps of breaking the folate down until we have 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate, which is then broken down to 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Okay? And that's the part that is used inside the body. And we want the methylated version of that. And then that compound spins off to another metabolic pathway, and spins off to another one, and spins off to another one. So we have all these biochemical pathways spinning the whole time. Okay? And taking nutrients from one pathway, adding it here. This pathway over here is for your detoxification processes. So it's pulling elements from other pathways to make sure that pathway works. And we'll get into that deep dive later. But I want you to know that it's just not about eating cereals fortified with folate. It's not eating bread fortified with folate. It's not taking Flintstone vitamins fortified with folate. It's not going to Walmart and buying the cheapest nutritional supplies you can buy on planet Earth with folate. And by the way, if you didn't know, there was a big study that was put out here about 2 months ago about buying nutrition from your stores or health food stores that are in your malls, that they're basically a bunch of fillers and additives, and the nutrients inside are not very bioavailable whatsoever. So you're spending all this money on what you think is good, and it's not doing you any good whatsoever. Okay? So the important thing is you get the real stuff that is made from people who know what they're talking about and deliver it at the right time for the appropriate condition or symptom. Okay? All right, a lot of stuff there, but it's for moms who either are trying to have babies, maybe you're going to get married and then you want to have children. You need to make sure that you get the proper methylfolate in your system to help prevent these neurodegenerative diseases or symptoms from happening or occurring. Okay? Now, the thing that I like the most is a genetic test kit. It's from Dr. Kendall Stewart. And in here, it's gonna let you know whether or not you have deficiencies in your folate pathway. Okay? He has a 26 gene test that tests within 5 different metabolic areas in the body, and one of those specific areas is your folate pathway, Mom. you can test your folate pathway to find out whether or not you're deficient in producing and providing enough folate for you, let alone a child, okay? And if you're deficient in certain areas, if there are 6 genes in this pathway, and our body is made up of pathways, okay? So you want to get from A to D. D is the final place you want to be, or E or F. That's where it takes it into the cell and it's utilized. But if you have a problem with A or B or C or D, and you want to get to E, you're not going to get to E all the way. Maybe you've only got one problem. You got a 10% reduction or whatnot. Maybe you have 2 problems. Maybe you have 3 genes of the problem, okay? You don't want to pass it on to your child. And also, you get your husband tested to find out if he's got problems with it too, because half of his nuclear DNA is going to go to your baby as well, okay? So these are just things, these are great preventatives to have you reassured in your mind that I'm doing everything I can to make sure I have a healthy baby, okay? So you can go to neurobiologics.com. You can go to genomicsnutrition.com and go to the patient section, look at the genetic tests, go through the podcast that Dr. Stewart has. He's a neuroimmune specialist, neurosurgeon, and he has developed all this himself. He's developed the products, he has developed the tests. It's the only test in the world that does what he needs it to do, okay? And he's treated patients like this for the last dozen years, thousands upon thousands of patients. He's got a year-long waiting list to get in his practice to be seen by him. I'm a provider for his company, so you can order the test. I get the results back. I go through the results with you over phone or Skype, or you can come to the office, whichever you want to do. The test is $399. I don't charge anything for 15 or 20 minutes to go over everything with you over the phone or Skype or whatnot. We want to make sure you get going in the right direction. So anyway, if you have questions about that, get a hold of me at drcarter720@gmail.com. It's drcarter720@gmail.com. Questions or comments, just leave them with me. I'll help you as much as I can, and I'm an advocate because I've had genetic testing done on my daughter, and I know it works. And if it wasn't for genetic testing, I'm not sure exactly where we would be today with her. So until next time, Smarter with Dr. Carter. Thank you.